Oh, what a mess. This is Neil Schneider from Meant to Be Seen. Welcome back to my messy basement. Picking up some lost ground this week. We're doing 2 episodes instead of just 1, and it is going to be an incredibly special episode today. First up, we've got Nolan Bushnell. Nolan Bushnell is the founder of Atari. So if you know anything about video games, you know that this is the guy, or at least one of the key people, that got this industry started. Really exciting. Really honored to have him join us today. Following Nolan, we've got Alberto Torres. Alberto Torres is the CEO of Atheer, and Atheer is one of the world's top augmented reality companies. So equally a big honor that Alberto's joining us today, talking about their latest tech and augmented reality. Really exciting stuff. So we're going to get the ball rolling right after this. This is Neil Schneider from Meant to Be Seen at the NXNE conference. To my immediate right is none other than Nolan Bushnell. Now, Nolan, your history goes back, I was going to say forever, but that doesn't come out quite right. But I want to share 2 quick stories with you before we get started. Okay. Story number 1 is I was supposed to be at E3 Expo this week, and I was disappointed. I was so disappointed that I couldn't go. And then I was invited here, and I got the opportunity to meet you, and it made up for the whole week. Okay. So that's story number 1. Story number 2 is the other night, I got a call from my mom. And I explained to my mother that, hey, I'm going to get to meet Nolan Bushnell tomorrow. So there's a pause at the other end of the phone, and she goes, Bushnell, I know that name. The Binoculars Company. No. So I want, but the truth is not.
Uncle Jack.
Yeah. But not everyone will, of course, have an appreciation for all the stuff that you've done in the video game industry. But you really represent the beginning of pretty much all that we're seeing here today. And I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about the history behind Pong.
Well, it turns out that I always like to say that the person that I stood on the shoulders was a guy named Steve Russell, who programmed Space War on a PDP-1 at MIT in 1962. And it was my attempt to do that, to make Computer Space, which was my first one. Then Al Alcorn, which was my first employee, my partner and I had this little company that we were doing video game consulting and licensed it. And he basically was assigned as a training project to do the simplest game I think of, which was Pong, ping pong game. And unbeknownst to us, we started making tweaks on it, and it turned to be a very fun game, and of course very successful and very cheap to manufacture, so we ended up manufacturing it. And that's really the start of Atari.
And if we talk about Pong it being a commercial success, how would you describe it?
It's fantastically a commercial success. It probably, in its lifetime, was copied by over 30 other companies. Atari itself did 35,000 units. We think that the total market was over 150,000 coin-operated units selling for 1,000 each. So if you look at that, it's a $150 million business. It's really a big business for a little company.
Now, if we could fast forward a little bit, I was hoping we could talk a little bit about the Atari 2600, because that's obviously a huge story right there. Tell us, I mean, a lot of our viewers probably never even seen one in person. It's hard to believe that enough time has passed that we're there. Can you talk a little bit about it? What was involved in making it happen? And tell us a little bit about its memory capacity, because I thought that was interesting too.
Well, the problem was that computers were still kind of expensive, and we perceived that the game had to sell for less than $200. I mean, that was still a lot of money in 1977. And so what we did is we had a combination of a custom chip and the best microprocessor we could find that we could buy enough of them. We spent $8 for the 6502 in quantity. And that's the reason why the Apple II was based on the 6502. because Steve Jobs and Wozniak worked for us, and they could get them for basically free because I think they stole them. But that's another. No, we'd always let people take the stuff, and so the combination of the custom chip and the microprocessor, and then we had the question of memory, and memory was very expensive in those days. And the Atari 2600 had 128 bytes. That's no memory at all in the real world. And so if you had, the cartridge had 2K of RAM, that was the maximum. Most of the cartridges only had 1K of RAM, because again, even RAM was expensive, or ROM was expensive. And so when we designed the 2600, we thought that it could probably play maybe 16 games. And of course, several hundred cartridges later, the cleverness of the software group was just incredible.
What's most impressive, I think what's most impressive is that given the simplicity, I mean, I'm thinking back at the 26, it wasn't so simple back then, but given the simplicity of the graphics and so on, it was all about the play. I mean, that's, do you think that that whole benefit of play in video games has been diminished a little bit with the advance of the technologies?
A little bit. I've noticed that there are some games that quite candidly are not polished in terms of gameplay. The graphics are gorgeous. The soundtrack is incredible. But there's a little dissonance of the gameplay, and I think that's because we had to focus on the gameplay because that's all we had.
Now, right now, of course, a big area of interest. We'll fast forward a great deal. We'll move forward decades instead of years. I mean, we've gone from the square pixel. Now we're talking about virtual worlds. We're talking about it again. I mean, it's been. I know you've been around the block once or twice, so you've seen this stuff before. What are your thoughts on modern VR?
Modern VR is good enough to not make you sick. That's like a watershed, because I believe that most of the early failures had to do with the insufficiency of head tracking and latency that made people sick. There's still people that can't be in VR for more than 15 minutes, but I think we'll always have some of that. I think it's good enough. I think that we're still 5 years away from a significant and robust home market. But I think that there's emerging a wonderful and robust public space market. I'll call it the arcade of the future, if you would. And actually, 2 of my sons are involved in that and doing quite well right now.
I think if memory serves, one of your sons, he's working on Fruit Ninjas in VR. Am I getting that right?
That's correct. And he tracks a sword and a full body tracking suit and is having just a ball. He charges $3 for a 3-minute experience, and they're lining up for it. So
you mentioned that you thought 5 years is about right for a meaningful market in VR. Now, there's the PC market, there's the console market. Maybe you want to define, I don't know if you mean altogether or specific areas?
Well, VR, in order to do it well, you need really robust graphics processors. In the PC world, that's very expensive. And I think AMD and some of the companies are doing a wonderful job, but you're burning a lot of MIPS, and you're using a lot of memory to get that to go. Then also, the screen graphics, since you're sort of looking at the screen very closely and through a magnifying glass, there's still a lot of pixelation that I hope is going to go away. The other part that is really lacking is good haptics. And I think that until we get haptics, we're not going to have a really good reality experience.
Okay. Yeah. We're being rushed along. I just wanted to ask one more question, because I know that every 2 years you do something out of this world. Like you've got a personal law of life that every 2 years you want to do something just out of this world, completely different. I was hoping you could just highlight some of the amazing things you've done over the past few decades.
Well, I've done automobile navigation. I've done online marketing. I've done restaurants with touchscreens at every table. I've done. I've got an entrepreneurial college right now called the Snap Institute that is just ramping up, and I'm writing a musical. And so the whole idea. Oh, and I've written a book, and I'm writing another book. And the whole idea is you want to keep the cobwebs growing, because if you do a lot of different things, you actually build your brain. And I want to be smarter than as I get older, rather than dumber.
So let's end this interview talking about the musical, because the musical kind of represents the beginning of this whole cycle.
Yeah, it's called Pong the Musical, and it's about the square ball that wants to become round, because he's fallen in love with Miss Pac-Man. She doesn't want to have anything to do with such a square ball.
And is this going to be an immersive experience?
Very much. It'll be immersive, and you'll be able to see it in VR as well. Because the nice thing about an immersive experience is that it's immersive, and that's perfect for VR.
Well, Nolan, if I may say, it's a complete honor. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm having fun. Thank you.
This is Neil Schneider for MTVS. We'll be back with more right after this. To my immediate left is Alberto Torres. He is the CEO of Atheer. Atheer is one of the top enterprise augmented reality companies in the world. It's a big honor that you're joining us today, Alberto. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Neil. Very happy to be here.
So why don't I think we should start with something very, very basic, and then our conversation will blossom from there. When I say basic, let's talk about augmented reality. So when we're talking about augmented reality, what are we referring to?
That's a great question. There's so much confusion today about AR, VR, mixed reality. To me, augmented reality is pretty simple. Augmented reality computing is situations where you are looking at the world and you're augmenting that reality in some way. And that augmentation could be in all kinds of forms. It could be simply a little pop-up that tells you, give you some information about what you're seeing. It could be that you're wearing glasses and you're able to launch an application in the air that you can interact with. It could be that you're seeing a 3D object. It could be that the 3D object is associated with the world. But it is, to me, augmented reality, it really is a very all-encompassing experience, a new form of computing that really are going to empower us to use and interact with content in entirely new ways across a variety of experiences.
Well, it's really exciting stuff. And I know that for Atheer, I understand there's two sides to the business. Maybe there's more, but from what I've seen, there's the software side and there's the hardware side. You have, to your left, you've got some gear next to you.
Yeah.
You've a pair of glasses. Maybe you could tell us about the Atheer glasses.
Sure. I mean, the key with Atheer glasses is to provide the most interactive experience for augmented reality. So we have a number of proprietary developments in gesture recognition, head tracking, etc. And the way we are packaging that experience today is in our glasses. So these are our Air glasses. They're really designed for the enterprise. So they're designed for people who are deskless professionals who are typically on the field doing things like repairing airplanes and building complicated equipment or doing inspections. And they wear the glasses. The glasses are binocular. They're powered by a very powerful processor. This is an NVIDIA K1 with a very large battery. So again, this is really designed for work usage. And the cool thing is, once I actually have these glasses, I actually can launch applications. I can see applications like screens that are floating around the air, and I can interact with them through gesture. So, for example, imagine I could launch a familiar application, say Google Maps, and I launch Google Maps, and I'm going to be able to do everything you would be able to do in Google Maps with a touch. So you could do pinch to zoom. You can move around the map. You can do anything that you would do on a touchscreen, but it's in the air. So if I am a worker that has gloves and that needs to focus on their job, this is pretty unique. And then, of course, we can do a lot more magical things. We can do 3D objects. We can do multiple screens. So you can have screens to your left and right. All of these experiences are possible with the Atheer glasses.
So this is really exciting stuff. And you put the glasses on. I was hoping you could elaborate a little bit as to how the glasses work, because there's obviously a lot of technology in making that work. You highlighted, of course, I think it's a Tegra GPU in there to make it work. But can you talk about the optics a little bit?
Sure. So so as I said, maybe if I walk briefly through the system. So we have essentially a processing unit which has a huge battery, because it's really meant for people to use it for eight hours of work. And it has a very powerful processor, as I said, the NVIDIA K1. And essentially, think about it as a very, very powerful tablet. But instead of having a touch screen and a display, you actually have the glasses as the display in the interaction mode. The displays they have two displays, so you can do stereoscopic. You can do, even if you were looking at a flat screen, the fact that you can see it on both eyes, it means that you can have a very comfortable experience where you can really, focus on the details and look at them over a period of time. Unlike things like, Google Glass and other monocular solutions that have a role, but when you actually look at them as ways to display rich content, it's pretty difficult to see anything, and it's also pretty difficult to look at something in one eye or the other. That's not the way that our brains work. So we use these glasses. The glasses are from one of our partners, a company called Lumus in Israel, that makes probably the best optics you can buy today. But then there's a lot of sensors on the head as well. So we have cameras that are able to share, for example, your point of view. So I can be looking at something, I can show you what I'm seeing through that camera. I can take photos, I can record anything. I also have a whole set of motion detectors that allow me to know what happens when I move my head. So if I turn my head to the right, I can always have, for example, a screen to my right, and that is enabled by these sensor. And finally, we have a depth sensor. Think about it as a kind of like a Kinect, but it's a Kinect on your head. And what it allows us to do is allow us to track your hands very precisely in the air. So whenever you do gestures, you're able to very quickly understand those gestures and translate it into actions in your application. So that's kind of the basics of how the system works. But of course, underneath that is all of our algorithms and intellectual property. We have, as I said, we have a proprietary gesture algorithm. We have integration of head tracking and voice. We have, just on the experience side, we have about 17 granted patents and another 50 to go. So a lot of technology, but the objective is to make that as simple as possible, so that eventually the technology just kind of disappears and you just focus on what you're doing.
Really cool stuff. By the way, I apologize. While you were speaking, our floor manager walked on set. Our floor manager is a cat, and so I hope you can hear the cat noises while she was walking on. But really, really amazing stuff. And I see next to your glasses, there's a golden figure to your immediate left. I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, this is the OGI Awards from the Augmented World Expo. We just won for the best enterprise solution at the show, and for people who are in this space, they know that Augmented World Expo is the most prestigious gathering of people in this space. So we're really, really excited to have won this award.
So what made your product stand out to win that award? What did they give criteria or things that just like made Atheer, on the top of the list?
Well, the way the award works is first you have a popular vote, so people nominate you, and then there's a judges panels that a panel of judges who basically decide based on what they see. And we had some pretty significant competition, including people like Boeing and others that have been in this for some time. And the key, I think the key way we won is really two things. I mean, one is from an interactivity perspective, our system is rather unique. But we've also have focused on enabling applications and content to come into the space very, very quickly. And particularly we've been doing that with two ways. One is by allowing you to use standard Android applications. But then the other one is actually by what we call the Air Suite. So we have essentially an application that allows you to do some of the key things that people want to do with glasses. And, the interesting thing is we even began to open that application, not only in our glasses, but we are working right now with pretty much all the major manufacturers of glasses for enterprise today. So
now the Atheer Suite, or the Air Suite, I think that's what you call it. That's the software side of the business, I take it?
Yeah, so we have, obviously, there's a lot of software in our glasses. Really the core of the innovation of it. We're more of a software company than a hardware company. But then, in addition to the operating system that is embodied in our glasses, we created the Air Suite. And the Air Suite is really an application. It's an application that can really enable solutions for enterprises very easily. And in simple terms, it allows you to do two things. One is collaboration. So a lot of people that are looking at glasses are looking to ways to enhance the expertise of the person wearing the glasses. So I'm wearing the glass. I'm an inspector, or I'm repairing a plane. I'm repairing a plane, and I found something I don't know exactly how to deal with. Today it's a complicated process. I may go back. I may have somebody else fly in and see this. So one of the things that our glasses allow you is, first of all, you can share your point of view, so you can share what you see with a third party. But unlike just sharing a video, you can do a lot more. You can get that third person to annotate and mark on what you see. You can get that person to send you documents, even instructions about how to do the job. It could be a video, it could be a 3D model. Everything is possible. But collaboration is really essential. The second thing that we do in our Air Suite is the ability to create task flows. So a lot of times people want to be able to codify how to do certain things. So, for example, if you stay with the airplane repair, you have an airplane that is on the ground. Something needs to be repaired. By the way, it's $15,000 an hour when a plane is not in operation. So it really is very important for people to be able to repair a plane very quickly. So one of the things you might want to do is to have, for different kinds of engines, for different kinds of procedures, you might want to have a set of detailed instructions for how that person can interact. So the way we do it is we allow you to create those instructions through a GUI. You basically would go into a PC or a tablet, and by drag and drop, you essentially create a flowchart that tells you what to do when, and that becomes instructions that can be sent and share through glasses.
So it's a really convenient instructional tool. I mean, it sounds like it gives you like step-by-step instructions. So if you're using the example of airplane repair, that, you know, if one mechanic needs to communicate to another mechanic what needs to be done, maybe they work different shifts. Does that sound about right?
Absolutely. And I think, look, I think it's just the beginning, because we're starting today with a technology that is, you know, obviously the glasses are expensive, they're bulky. So we're going after places like repairing a machine, an airplane or some complicated machine. But in the future, maybe there's somebody who's fixing your dishwasher, or it could even be, you know, you bought something from IKEA and you want to assemble it at home. And now you have a tool that allows you to give you step-by-step instructions as you see, and you can even call somebody and have them help you, you know, in a very, very easy way. So I really think this is just the beginning, but it's a very useful tool, and I think it's a tool that's going to go from this kind of hardcore business professional space across you know, other applications and enterprises, and eventually consumers as well.
Now, there's a lot of augmented reality content, I'd say, in the smartphone business, where you take the camera that's on the smartphone, you view it through the screen, and, you know, I've seen different education tools and some really cool stuff out there. And then, of course, you've got, you know, marketers that are using augmented reality, like McDonald's, where, you know, you take a Happy Meal, you put the camera in front, and, you know, the Happy Meal turns into this whole entertainment center. I'm just using this as an example.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I know you're very much focused in the enterprise market, but do you see a future where, you know, glasses like these are going to like dramatically drop in price, that they will be, you know, not just for consumers, but also that maybe there's this whole library of content that could be reappropriated for this AR space?
Totally. I mean, look, I've been in the mobile industry for you know, almost 2 decades, and the reason I came into the AR and the glass space is we really believe that this is the next generation of mobile computing. I really think in the future you might have a phone of some sort. The phone may actually get smaller over time, but then when you actually want to have a richer experience, you wear glasses. So let me give an example. You're in a plane, and this, by the way, I think this will happen within 3 to 5 years max. You're gonna be on a plane. You have your phone. You want to watch a movie. Right now, your choices. Maybe you have a laptop or a tablet, or you use the little screen in front of your desk. Well, imagine that you instead of that, you put some glasses. The glasses are going to get smaller and cheaper and lighter, without a doubt. And so you wear your glasses on, and now you see a screen the size of the TV of your living room. And you have this very immersive experience, and while at the same time being able to see the person that you're traveling with, you can pay attention to the steward that's bringing you food or whatever. So it's not really a VR experience; it's an AR experience. But you can see a video, you can watch your movie, and then maybe you decide that you want to do some work, and you can bring your screen closer to you, and now you can do some work, and it could be anything. You can imagine that you're running Excel or doing email or whatever you like to do, or you can even be say a programmer, and you might have multiple screens, and now you have all the screens available to you on a plane. And you can have your main screen for coding, and you have debugging screens and so forth. And these can all be around you. And this is not science fiction. This is definitely going to happen.
It sounds like you're able to work with this stuff today, and it just maybe a few years down the line, it will be affordable for the end consumer. But now is the time where you're experimenting with the big applications. Is that right? Or
absolutely. Look, I mean, if you look at I compare the situation that we have with AR glasses today to the first PCs or the first mobile phones. I mean, if you look at the first PCs, in today's dollars, the Apple II or the first IBM PC, somewhere they went $5,000 and $9,000 as a starting price. The first mobile phones from Motorola were in today's dollars about $7,000 to $9,000 as a starting price. So and they were big. I mean, I had a chance recently to meet Martin Cooper, who was the pioneer who drove the first mobile phone. And one of the things that was really interesting, I saw a video of the introduction of the first mobile phone. And it was this big Motorola phone. And you could see both the amazement on the audience. I mean, when the audience was looking at this, they were amazed, but they were also a little like, "Whoa, what is this? Who's gonna use that thing?" And the answer is everybody. It's just. But at the beginning, when you have a device that is that expensive and is bulky, the people who use it are the people who can make money by using it. So, with the mobile phones, where people are like traders and bankers and so forth, with the PC, where engineers and accountants, and I think in this case, with glasses, it's going to be what we call the deskless professionals, so people like repair professionals and assembly guys, and people who are doctors. So those are the people that can really benefit from the technology today. But I think if you project yourself a few years out, this will be ubiquitous. Everyone will have one.
Well, this is really exciting stuff. Thanks so much for joining us today. I wish you luck and congratulations on your Augie Award. I mean, it's really impressive.
Well, thank you very much. It's really great to have a chance to be part of this conversation, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Perfect. So this is Neil Schneider in my messy basement. We'll be back with more right after this. Thank you for watching Neil's Messy Basement. I think it turned out to be a great show. I had a good time. I hope you did too. Looking forward to next week's episode. If you have ideas for the show, if you want to be a guest on the program, by all means, send us an email at neilsmessybasement@mtbs3d.com. Talk to you again next week.